My name is Abeni Okoye, and I was 21 years old the day my father placed one faded blue suitcase on the front porch and quietly locked the door behind me. Everything I owned fit inside that suitcase. 3 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, 1 photo of my late grandmother, and an old notebook she had once pressed into my hands with the words, "One day this will remind you who you really are." My mother never cried. She simply pulled the curtains shut while I stood outside in the rain pretending I wasn't cold enough to shake. The last thing my father said before turning away was, "Don't come back until you've become someone worth opening this door for." 8 years later, someone knocked on my front door. When I opened it, the same 2 people who had thrown me away stood silently on my porch. Only this time, they were the ones carrying a single suitcase. And for the first time in their lives, they were asking me for a place to stay. Abeni Okoye was only 21 years old when her whole life changed in one painful night. She was quiet, kind, and never liked showing off. She believed in working hard with her hands instead of chasing big dreams that did not feel right for her. But in her family, that was never enough. Her parents always compared her to her older brother, Musa. He went to university, talked about making lots of money, and always seemed to impress everyone. Every family dinner became another chance to remind Abeni that she was not as successful as her brother. No matter how hard she worked, they only saw disappointment. One evening, a simple conversation about money quickly turned into a terrible argument. Her father accused her of wasting her future and bringing shame to the family because she refused to follow the path they had chosen for her. Abeni tried to explain that she wanted an honest life, not a rich one built on someone else's dream, but no one listened. Her mother stood quietly beside her father without saying a single word. Then her father picked up an old faded blue suitcase, placed it on the front porch, and told Abeni to leave. He said she should never come back until she became someone worth respecting. The front door closed, and the lock clicked behind her. Standing alone in the cold night, Abeni realized she no longer had a home. With tears in her eyes, she carried the suitcase to a nearby bus station. She sat alone on a hard bench, holding the old notebook her late grandmother had once given her. It was the only thing that made her feel she had not lost everything. The next morning, Abeni woke up tired, hungry, and unsure of what to do next. She had barely slept on the cold bench at the bus station. With her blue suitcase beside her, she slowly walked through the streets until she reached a small neighborhood bakery. She sat outside, trying to make her last few coins last as long as possible. While she sat there, an elderly woman named Mama Zuri noticed her. Mama Zuri had kind eyes, but she did not ask questions or offer empty sympathy. She simply walked over and asked, "Are you looking for work?" Abeni quickly nodded. Mama Zuri owned a small furniture restoration workshop a few streets away. She told Abeni that the work was not easy, the pay was small, but every honest worker was welcome. Abeni accepted without thinking twice. That same day, she swept floors, cleaned dusty shelves, carried heavy pieces of wood, and carefully organized old tools. She worked quietly and never complained, even when her hands became sore. Mama Zuri noticed that Abeni treated every old chair, table, and cabinet with great care, as if each one had its own story. After a few weeks, Mama Zuri began teaching her how to repair broken wood, polish old furniture, and bring forgotten pieces back to life. Abeni listened carefully and practiced every lesson with patience. Little by little, she discovered she had a natural gift. Customers started praising the beautiful work she did with her own hands. For the first time in many years, someone believed in her instead of comparing her to someone else. As the months passed, the small workshop became much more than a workplace. They shared simple meals together, celebrated small successes, and laughed during long days of work. Mama Zuri became the caring guide Abeni had always needed. The workshop became the first place where she felt accepted, respected, and truly at home, proving that sometimes a stranger can give you the chance your own family never did. The years passed, and Abeni's life slowly changed in ways she had never imagined. Every morning, she worked hard at Mama Zuri's workshop. Every evening, after finishing work, she went to night classes. She wanted to learn everything she could. She studied woodworking, furniture restoration, interior design, and small business management. Some nights she returned home very late, feeling tired, but she never gave up. She remembered how quickly life could change, and she promised herself that if someone gave her a second chance, she would never waste it. Mama Zuri watched her grow with pride. She often smiled and said that true success comes from patient hands and an honest heart, not from showing off. As the years went by, more customers came to the workshop because they trusted Abony's work. She never rushed a job just to make more money. Every old chair, table, cabinet, and bookshelf was carefully repaired as if it belonged to her own family. People were amazed that furniture they thought was beyond repair looked beautiful again after Abony worked on it. Soon, customers began recommending her to their friends and relatives. Her name quietly became known for quality, honesty, and respect. When Mama Zuri decided it was time to retire, she offered to sell the workshop to Abony. It was the happiest day of Abony's life. She had saved money for years and was finally able to buy the place that had given her a new beginning. She kept the workshop exactly as Mama Zuri had always wanted, full of kindness, hard work, and fairness. She hired skilled workers who believed in the same values and treated every employee like family. Year after year, the small workshop continued to grow. It became one of the most trusted restoration businesses in the region. Beautiful antique furniture arrived from many towns, and customers were willing to wait because they knew Abony would do the job with care. Without chasing fame or quick wealth, she built a successful life through honesty, patience, and the simple decision to never stop learning. While Abony was quietly building a better life, her parents were living in a completely different world. They had stopped talking about her long ago. Whenever relatives asked about their daughter, they quickly changed the subject or simply said she had chosen her own path. It was as if Abony had disappeared from the family. Every bit of their attention was now focused on Musa. They believed he was the child who would make the whole family rich and respected. Musa dressed in expensive suits, drove nice cars, and spoke with great confidence about big business plans. Every time he visited, he talked about luxury apartments, shopping centers, and land that would soon be worth millions. His parents believed every word without asking many questions. Musa told them that great success only came to people who were willing to take big risks. He convinced them that this was the perfect time to invest all the family savings into several luxury property projects. He promised that within a few years, they would never have to worry about money again. His parents trusted him completely. They even sold valuable family property and used almost everything they had saved over many years to support his business dreams. They believed they were making the smartest decision of their lives. Whenever family members gathered for birthdays, holidays, or celebrations, Musa was always the center of attention. His parents proudly introduced him as the future of the family. They spoke about the expensive projects he was leading and the wealthy people he was meeting. They smiled with pride and told everyone that Musa would soon make the Okoye family famous. No one asked where Abony was. No one wondered if she was safe, happy, or even alive. Her name slowly disappeared from family conversations. Old photographs with Abony stayed hidden inside drawers, and her room had long been emptied. It was easier for them to pretend they had only one child than to admit they had pushed their daughter away. Far away from all of this, Abony never heard their proud speeches. She stayed focused on her work, helping customers, training young workers, and building an honest future with her own hands. She had stopped waiting for her family's approval because she had finally learned that real success does not need permission from people who never believed in you. 8 years passed, and Abony's life looked completely different from the night she had been forced to leave home with one blue suitcase. The small workshop that once gave her a second chance had grown into several successful restoration studios. People traveled from different towns to bring her old furniture because they trusted her work more than anyone else's. Her business became known not only for beautiful craftsmanship, but also for honesty, fairness, and respect. Customers knew that Abony would never charge them for work they did not need, and that trust made her business stronger every year. As her company grew, Abony never forgot what it felt like to have nothing. She hired young apprentices who were struggling with life, just as she once had. Some had no family support. Others had lost hope after many disappointments. Instead of judging them, Abony gave them a chance to learn a skill, earn an honest living, and believe in themselves again. She patiently taught them that restoring old furniture was not just about fixing broken wood. It was about giving something forgotten a second chance. Many of her apprentices saw her as more than a business owner. They saw her as the person who believed in them when no one else did. Every morning before starting work, Ebony looked at her grandmother's old notebook resting on the shelf in her office. It stayed in the same place every day. Whenever life became difficult or an important decision had to be made, she opened its worn pages and remembered her grandmother's words about courage, kindness, and staying true to herself. That notebook reminded her that success was never measured by money alone. During those 8 years, Ebony never tried to contact her parents. She did not spend her time planning revenge or hoping they would regret what they had done. She no longer wanted to prove that they had been wrong about her. That chapter of her life no longer controlled her future. She had discovered that real peace comes when you stop living for someone else's approval. Although the pain of the past never disappeared completely, it no longer ruled her heart. Ebony had built a life filled with honest work, loyal friends, grateful employees, and people who respected her for who she truly was. Without anger or revenge, she had already achieved something far greater than proving anyone wrong. She had finally found the happiness she once believed was impossible. One rainy evening, Ebony finished checking the last furniture order before locking her office. The workers had already gone home, and the workshop was quiet. As she made herself a cup of tea, the sound of the doorbell broke the silence. She was not expecting anyone at that hour. She walked slowly to the front door and opened it. The moment she looked outside, she froze. Standing on her doorstep were the two people she had not seen in 8 years. Her mother looked tired and much older than Ebony remembered. Her father's shoulders were no longer straight with pride. His face showed worry, regret, and exhaustion. Between them stood the same faded blue suitcase they had placed on the porch the night they forced Ebony to leave. For a few moments, no one spoke. The rain continued falling as all three stood there, remembering the painful night that had changed their lives forever. Ebony looked at the old suitcase and recognized every scratch on it. She had carried it through the hardest days of her life. Now it had returned to her doorstep, but this time it was in her parents' hands. Her father finally lowered his eyes and spoke in a quiet voice. He admitted that everything had fallen apart. Moose's business projects had failed one after another. The luxury developments had stopped because of huge debts. Business partners they trusted had secretly committed financial fraud, leaving Musa to face lawsuits and unpaid loans. Their savings had disappeared. The family home had been taken away, and they had nowhere left to live. Every person they once called a friend had turned away when the money was gone. Her father struggled to continue speaking. The man who had once proudly closed the door on his daughter could barely look at her now. After a long silence, he whispered the words he never believed he would have to say. "We don't have anyone else." Ebony stood quietly, looking at the faces that had once rejected her. 8 years earlier, she had been the one with nowhere to go. Now, everything had changed, and the next decision belonged to her alone. During the next few days, the house stayed quiet. Ebony gave her parents a safe place to sleep, but she did not pretend that everything was normal. The painful memories between them could not disappear overnight. They shared simple meals together, and little by little, they began talking about the past for the first time in many years. Some conversations were difficult. Others ended with long moments of silence. But no one walked away anymore. One afternoon, Ebony finally asked the question she had carried in her heart for 8 long years. She wanted to know why they had chosen Musa over her again and again. Her parents looked at each other, unsure how to answer. At last, her father took a deep breath and admitted a truth he had hidden for years. He told her that before Ebony's grandmother passed away, she had left money only for Ebony's education. She believed her granddaughter deserved the chance to study whatever she wanted one day. But after her grandmother died, he and Ebony's mother made a different decision. They secretly gave that money to Musa because they believed he had a brighter future and a better chance of making the family rich. Hearing those words broke Ebony's heart more than being forced to leave home. It was not only the money that hurt her. It was knowing that the people who should have believed in her never truly did. Her father lowered his head with shame. He admitted that they had spent years judging their children by success, money, and public praise. They never looked at kindness, honesty, or quiet strength. They had been so focused on Moose's big dreams that they failed to see the value of the daughter standing right beside them. Then he spoke about the blue suitcase. He confessed that asking Ebony to leave had never really been about teaching her responsibility or discipline. It had come from their own disappointment, fear, and wrong expectations. They had blamed the wrong child for dreams that were never hers. For the first time in her life, Ebony heard her father admit that they had completely misunderstood the person she had always been. After hearing the truth, Ebony stayed quiet for a long time. Her parents waited for an answer, hoping she would forgive them immediately. But Ebony knew that real forgiveness could not happen in one conversation. The past had left deep scars, and trust could not return in a single day. She looked at her parents calmly and told them they could stay for a while, but only if they accepted a few simple conditions. These were not punishments. They were the rules that every person in her home followed. She explained that everyone deserved respect, no matter how much money they had or what job they did. If they stayed with her, they had to treat every employee, customer, and apprentice with kindness. They could not look down on anyone because of their clothes, education, or social position. They also had to help instead of expecting everything to be given to them. This home had been built through honest work, and everyone living there had to become part of that same spirit. Her father quietly agreed. The next morning, he asked if there was anything he could do at the workshop. Ebony gave him simple tasks at first. He swept the floors, carried supplies, cleaned old furniture, and helped organize the storage room. Nobody treated him as a special guest. He worked beside everyone else, and for the first time in many years, he understood how much effort honest work required. Ebony's mother also wanted to help. She noticed that many young apprentices stayed late and often skipped meals to save money. She began preparing simple lunches and organizing weekly community dinners at the workshop. The apprentices slowly grew close to her, and she found joy in caring for people without expecting praise in return. As the weeks passed, Ebony's parents slowly changed. They learned that true respect is not given because of money or status. It is earned through kindness, humility, and honest effort. They stopped expecting special treatment and started appreciating the value of every person's work. Watching them change did not erase the past, but it gave Ebony something she had never thought possible. For the first time, she saw her parents becoming better people instead of simply asking to be forgiven. A few weeks later, Ebony was cleaning an old wooden cabinet in her office. As she organized some papers, she picked up her grandmother's notebook. It had been with her through every important moment of her life, but she had not opened it for a long time. She carefully turned the old pages, and suddenly she noticed that 2 pages were stuck together. Very gently, she separated them. Hidden inside was a handwritten letter she had never seen before. Her heart started beating faster as she recognized her grandmother's writing. Ebony called her parents into the office. The 3 of them sat together as she slowly began reading the letter aloud. Her grandmother wrote that she had always believed Ebony was different from the rest of the family. She explained that quiet people are often misunderstood because they do not fight for attention. She said that Ebony's greatest gift was not wealth, clever words, or big dreams. It was her kind heart, her patience, and her ability to keep going even after being deeply hurt. She wrote that success built on honesty would always last longer than success built only on pride or money. The letter also asked the family never to measure a person's value by their job, education, or bank account. It reminded them that true character is revealed by how someone treats others when nobody is watching. When Ebony finished reading, the room became silent. Tears filled her mother's eyes as she realized how unfairly they had judged their own daughter. Her father could no longer hide his regret. He looked directly at Ebony and gave her the first real apology she had ever received from him. He admitted that they had ignored everything that truly mattered and had almost lost the best part of their family because of it. For the first time, they were not making excuses or blaming someone else. They accepted full responsibility for their choices. That hidden letter became the moment that changed all of them forever and finally opened the door to honest healing. Months passed, and life slowly found a new balance. One warm afternoon, Ebony stood outside her workshop home, watching a group of young apprentices carefully restore old chairs and tables. Their laughter filled the yard as they worked together, helping one another and learning new skills. Looking at them made Ebony smile because she saw a little of her younger self in each of them. Some had arrived with fear and uncertainty, just as she once had. Now they had hope, purpose, and people who believed in them. Her business continued to grow, but what made Ebony happiest was not the success. It was knowing that her workshop had become a place where people could begin again. Every old piece of furniture that was repaired reminded her that broken things could still have value if someone cared enough to restore them. She realized the same was true for people. Her parents now lived in a small house nearby. They had worked hard to rebuild their lives with honesty and dignity. Her father continued helping at the workshop a few days each week, while her mother still prepared meals for apprentices whenever she could. Their relationship with Ebony was not perfect. There were still painful memories that could never be erased, but they no longer hid behind pride or excuses. They spoke honestly, listened to one another, and appreciated the second chance they had been given. Inside Ebony's hallway, the old faded blue suitcase still stood in the same place. Visitors often asked why she kept such an old suitcase instead of throwing it away. Ebony would simply smile. To her, it was no longer a symbol of rejection or sadness. It reminded her of the night everything changed and of the courage she found when she had nowhere else to go. Without that painful goodbye, she might never have discovered the life she was meant to build. As Ebony looked around her workshop, her family, and the people whose lives had changed alongside hers, she finally understood what her grandmother had always wanted her to know. A real home is never the place that once pushed you away. A real home is the place where you choose to open the door for others without losing your kindness, your courage, or your self-respect.